Hi guys, so today we're going to talk about the human vocal tract, the vocal organs or speech organs. And I have right here, we have this practice that we had to fill out and then we need to explain one by one. So I'm going to start to the back part of the practice, and I have right here the major vocal organs, and I have the lungs, the diaphragm, oral cavity, trachea, nasal cavity, pharynx, and larynx. So also I'll be defining all the terms one by one. So that's the major vocal organs that we have right here. So moving on with the all the vocal organs that we can find, also the articulators. I have right here the tongue, the jaw, glottis, vocal cords, epiglottis, uvula, hard palate, valium or soft palate, lower and upper teeth, lower and upper lips, the alveolar ridge, and it is also included the oral cavity, pharynx, larynx, and all that. But right here, since we mentioned all of them right here in the major, right here we're moving on to some others that we have, and also the articulators. So I'll be now describing and defining all of the terms, and I'll be showing you where they are located. So we're going to start with the lungs. The lungs are the airstream initiators. The lungs are this that you can see right here. We have a left and right lung. Those ones that we can see right here. We also have the diaphragm. I'm sorry. It is located right here. And the definition that we have, it's a layer of muscle between the lungs and the stomach used especially to control breathing. It's the one of the principal muscles that we use to breathe, and it is right here. It's dividing the abdominal part with the organs that we have in the chest, in the thorax. That is the diaphragm. Moving on, we also have the trachea. The trachea is colloquially called as the windpipe. It is a cartilaginous tube that connects the pharynx and the larynx to the lungs, allowing the passage of air, and so is present in almost all air-breathing animals with lungs. So the trachea is very important because, as I was mentioning before, the airstream's initiators are the lungs. So the air comes from the lungs, so it needs to pass by through the trachea so we can produce speech as well. So the trachea, it is right here. This is the trachea, and it's very important as well as a major vocal organ. The trachea, it's a major vocal organ. Moving on, we have the larynx, and within the larynx we have the vocal cords, but I'll be defining that later. So the larynx right here, let me just 1 second to provide it with the answer. The larynx is a cartilaginous organ containing two small muscle folds. Those folds are the vocal cords. The vocal cords are made of tissue, two muscle folds, and the gap between the vocal cords is the glottis. We'll be seeing that moving on. So the vocal cords, now that we're talking about the larynx, the vocal cords are within the larynx, and there are two folds of tissue. So when the vocal cords are wide apart, they don't produce vibration. When they are narrow it's a position. When they are close to each other, they vibrate. That's why we have sounds that are voiceless and voiced. So moving on, we have the pharynx. The pharynx is essentially a tube that connects the back of the mouth with the larynx. This one doesn't move. That's tip only. The principle. Okay, so moving on with the front part of the practice, where we have mainly the articulators that we use to articulate our words. I'll be defining each of them. So we're going to start with the alveolar ridge, that is the promontory that curves across the roof of the mouth, just behind the upper front teeth, and which can be felt with the tip of the tongue. The alveolar ridge is this part that you can see right here. We can touch it with the tip of our tongue effectively, like that, and is a place of articulation as well. So moving on, we have the palate. The palate can be divided into hard and soft palate. So we're going to describe first the hard palate, that is the dome-like structure that lies behind the alveolar ridge. So this part right here, we have the alveolar ridge right here, and this part that comes just back. The alveolar ridge, it's the hard palate. We can also feel it with the tip of our tongue, and it's also a place of articulation. Moving on, we have the velum, or the soft palate, and it is the fleshy area immediately behind the palate. So when we say behind the palate, it will be the hard palate. We have right here alveolar ridge, hard palate, velum, soft palate. Moving on, we have the uvula. We have the uvula, that is a small grape-like organ that hangs from the lower end of the velum. This is a uvula. It is all connected, it is all in order. We have alveolar ridge, hard palate, soft palate or velum, and the uvula. So moving on, we described the larynx and pharynx. We described all that with the major organs that I explained before. So we can move on to the tongue. The tongue is a formless muscle of particular importance in the production of speech sounds, and you normally have referred to a specific part of it when you classify speech sound. The tongue, we can see it right here. This is the tongue. This is the space where the tongue is. And it is divided in 5 parts, that is the tip, the blade, the front, the back, and the root. So we use all the parts of the tongue. We use it in articulation, and usually the tongue gets in contact with those places of articulation that I mentioned right here: the alveolar ridge, hard palate, and the soft palate. It may be with the tip of the tongue, it may be with the blade, it may be with the back or the front. It can be with the root, because the root is located right here. It's the root. But that is. Moving on, we have the jaw. In the image right here, it's the jaw. The jaw, it's a pair of bones that form the framework of the mouth of vertebrate animals, usually containing teeth and including a movable lower jaw, the mandible, and fixed upper jaw, the maxilla. Jaws function by moving in opposition to each other and are used for biting, chewing, and the handling of food. Besides using our jaws for food, we also use our jaw for speech. So that's why the jaw is included in the articulators. We can say it's mainly as well as the teeth and all that, because we use the jaw as we talk. Even if we can see it, right, that we use it. So also I have right here the epiglottis. The epiglottis is a leaf-shaped flap in the throat that prevents food from entering the windpipe and the lungs. So the epiglottis is this that we can see right here. This is the epiglottis. So the epiglottis, it is up. We can say the glottis. That's why it's epiglottis. The glottis, it's behind. The glottis, I was mentioning before in the video that the glottis is the space between the vocal cords. The vocal cords are these two that we can see right here. I was saying that the vocal cords are two folds, like two folds of tissue, and they are within the larynx. We mentioned all that when we were talking about the major vocal organs.